Hello and welcome back to One-on-One Shadowboxing. My guest is Jeff Williams, who is the president of the Swan Valley Ratepayers and Residents Association. Jeff, in the first half we heard something really good about the Swan Valley Planning Act, which is a unique one. But time to time, people just proposing to review this Planning Act. Why is that, and what's happened lately? Tell us.
There has been a review lately. We heard about it through rumour. It obviously concerns us because whenever we hear the rumour of reviewing the Act, we're worried that does that mean watering down the Act? And the Act, in my view, isn't tight enough as it is, so we don't want it watered down anymore. We started to agitate about this rumour, and that seemed to consolidate people into their positions, and it's become a fact, but handed to the Department of Planning to run. So the Department of Planning have been running a review, not a review of the Act. Once I asked the question, people backed away from the word review and started using discussion paper.
Discussion paper.
So the discussion paper, and it's turned out, I suspected initially it was going to be used as an excuse to encourage development into housing development into the Swan Valley. I think it's not going to be used that way now. It looks like it's if those people were pushing that line, they've backfired on them because the review shows quite clearly the value of the Swan Valley.
The discussion paper, you mean?
Yeah, the discussion paper has shown
that... playing with words, but yes, this is a review. So what's the outcome of the discussion paper, or what does it say?
It reiterates the purpose of the Act, and the purpose, and summarises the purpose of the Act to encourage the traditional agriculture and other productive uses of the area that complement the rural character, protection of the environment character of the area, reduction of nutrient levels into the Swan River, the promotion of tourism that complements the rural character of the Swan Valley. So it reiterates the core activities of the Act.
It sounds very good and promising.
It sounds very good and promising. It reiterates the three areas of the Act, the three Planning Areas Act, which have similar land uses and minimum lot sizes of 4 hectares for most of them, and it says for viniculture. It points out, though, some of the research which I hadn't realised is the amount of income Swan Valley generates for the state. From grape sales in 2010 to 2011 was $187 million.
That's a big sum under the current economic climate. That's excellent.
Yes, perhaps we should give it to Hanson's Quarry to pay their fines in Europe.
And they probably will tap into that one as well, if they can.
So it may end up being a very useful document to support the value of the Planning Act
and the preservation
of the Swan Valley, and it reinforces the value you can have sometimes, because there was the original Planning Act in '95 had 4 land uses at A, B, C, and D.
And this one?
And D, the additional one, which does no longer exist, it was taken out of the Act in 2005.
Yes.
Was quaintly called rural villages. And what it meant was high-density housing in 3 separate locations in the Swan Valley to the tune of about 14,000 houses. It was put in the Act in 1994, I believe, as a compromise to protecting the Swan Valley in general. So so the people who created that said, we're going to protect the majority of the Swan Valley, but to satisfy the developers, we'll have these little bits here, which these little bits weren't quite so little.
A little bit of carrots to the developers.
Yeah, that's right.
So how does it happen? It's taken out in 2005. What's happened?
Yeah, what we were able to, we lobbied very hard in state government and local government, as we do, and we were able to convince the local member of the day, her name is Jay Radisich, who was the Labor member of the day, that the overwhelming majority of the people who live in the Swan Valley don't want Area D. She was able to convince Alana McTiernan on the last day of Parliament, before Parliament was prorogued in about 2005, that election. And she was being lobbied heavily by developers to not remove it from the Act. But on the last day of Parliament, before it was prorogued, almost the last Act of Parliament, she read into the lower house, Area D will be removed from the Act.
And they removed it?
And they removed it from the Act. I was able to notify the community of the Swan Valley that they had done that, and whether it's a consequence of that, I'm not sure, but I know that Jay Radisich's margin in that electorate went from 0.4% to 4.3% margin. So whether that contributed to her enhanced appeal in the community, I'm not sure. But after the election, of course, it had to go through the upper house. Now, after years and years and years of ratepayers associations and with the support of the grape growers and the Tourism Council, opposing Area D and governments not wanting to know about it or hiding from it or knowing it's a hot potato and not wanting to do it, suddenly they were all queuing up in the upper house to say what a great idea it was and making jokes about how we should be reading this in the Swan Valley. We should all go out there and have lunch there and read this change to the Act to delete Area D. And all the political parties were queuing up to say, we agree, we agree, we agree.
So when was that? Which year they completely deleted?
That would have been the first 6 months of the new Labor government after 2005, if that was the date of that election. And that was quite amusing to see these people who seemed to have been avoiding the issue for years suddenly jump on the bandwagon.
And agreed.
Agreed. So you have some wins. Occasionally you have a win. You don't always get 100% win necessarily. There was 3 Area Ds in the Swan Valley.
You got a map in here.
I have a map, and the smallest one of the 3, which is on the edge of Caversham, almost outside the Swan Valley, is now outside the Swan Valley, as that was deleted from the Act. So the 2 big areas have been put into Area C and saved. The smaller one was taken completely out of the Act, and now that's a housing development, and it's gone the path of where we knew these things would go. And I think it's called Morgan Fields or something like that these days.
Tell me the relationship between your organization, the Ratepayers and Residents Association of the Swan Valley, and the city of the Swan Valley. Is it a friendly relationship, or how does it work?
I think we respect each other. At times we're in conflict. There's often times that the Ratepayers Association has different objectives to perhaps the council. And there's 2 parts to the council. There's the councillors themselves, who have got their own issues about being re-elected and making decisions based for the whole of City of Swan. And then you've got the officers that work in there, the planning department, for instance, who have the view that they know everything and they will just tell you what to do, and you're only a resident, and what would you know about it? The fact that you have to live there and your rates pay their income doesn't seem to work for them.
Yes, typical, yes.
Yes, so we have a active relationship. Not all negative, not all positive. You have some wins. We had a very good win recently in that one of the other hats I wear is as the chair of the Wandoo Heights Preservation Group. And there was a 40-hectare piece of land that was given to the City of Swan by 2 elderly women just before they passed away, asking the Shire to look after it forever for community use passively, walking basically. And it has a little visitor centre on it, and people can get a key from the Shire and go and visit it whenever they like. After a few years, obviously somebody got a hint that this existed and decided, wouldn't it be a good idea to put a development on it? And
it's always a good idea to develop something somewhere.
And I hear things. So when I heard this, I chased it up with the City of Swan. And they said, oh, well, there's going to be discussions about it at a council meeting. So I asked to do a deputation. So I did a deputation opposing this development on Wandoo Heights to keep it as it is, available to all people to use as passive recreation. And the Mayor of the day, Charlie Zanino, after I'd given my history of how the City of Swan had acquired the land, stood up and said, yeah, that's true, that's correct. What Jeff said is right. And then the rest of the council said, well, how do we preserve this then for passive recreational use? And the officers of the day went away and did some research and found the best way to do that would be to incorporate it in the Australian Heritage listing. And it is now.
It's listed by?
Listed as in the Australian Heritage listing by the City of Swan as of a matter of barely 6 months ago.
That's very good to hear. You achieved some success.
It's nice to win one occasionally.
No, I think your organization somehow is appeared to have a very effective one, and very unusual in Perth Metro to find, community associations being effective. And I know that your association is not political, so how do you deal with the political issues of the day?
We have an AGM. We're a democratic organisation. We're re-elected every year at an AGM. Our next AGM is the 10th of May at Carilli Winery in Herne Hill, and anybody's welcome to come along and participate. The committee is dissolved on the night and re-elected. I've been fortunate enough to be re-elected 10 years in a row now as president. People have asked the question about, are we politically aligned, especially when we did things like lobby Jay Radisich about Area D and then get it read into Parliament. Yes. Questions come up, are you political? Are you connected to the Labor Party? And we are not. It says quite clear in our constitution we're apolitical, but we will lobby in the environment. We will lobby in local government, we will lobby in state government, we will lobby in federal government. We will support any political party that does the right thing by the Swan Valley. we'll oppose any political party that does the wrong thing by the Swan Valley.
And how many ratepayers how many members you got?
We've got off the top of my head I don't have the exact figures, but we've got a few hundred.
And ratepayers?
Well, they're all members. We don't differentiate between them. Once they're a member, they're a member. But as when we put out our regular newsletters, which we do quite often, we send them to all the households of the Swan Valley because they're our constituents and they want to know what's going on. And that's about 3,480 households in the Swan Valley. So people can choose to join if they wish. Not everybody does, but I think people would like to know what's going on, and we hope that our newsletters encourage that. We're developing a Facebook page at the moment, and we're developing an email network to be able to email people if they want to stay involved. And I would recommend that people, irrespective of Swan Valley people, all people in Perth should be involved in their local ratepayer committees. They are the people who actually care about the community. The councils, state governments, federal governments, they've got their own priorities, they've got their own issues, whether it's re-election or generating income for themselves or building themselves monuments to the future like bell towers and such. The ratepayers associations are the community, and they're the ones that are interested in the community, and people should support them. Participate preferably, at least support them.
Jeff, tell us what you personally recommend for the people of Perth to see in the Swan Valley.
Okay, there is many. The wineries are fairly well known. There are new restaurants opening all the time. There are farm stay places where people can see animals. There's a animal refuge that's open to the public. The cycleways now all the way around. If we can finally get the Perth to Darwin Highway built, we may actually be safe to drive along Great Northern Highway, because at the moment it's not particularly safe because of the mixed traffic use of through trucks going up north, tourism going up north, tourism going locally, who tend to meander and go slowly because they've got their hire car and looking for the restaurant.
Bit of a traffic congestion in the Swan Valley, as I heard. Yes,
and Great Northern Highway has 2 schools on it. And then, of course, there's the local traffic. So we desperately need the Perth to Darwin Highway built.
It's planned a long time. So how long is on the drawing board?
It's been in street directories, the easement area marked in street directories for 20 or 30 years, and no government's picked it up. Probably because of the cost. I mean, it's not a cheap project, but we're pleased to hear that the government is going to build it. We're disappointed that it's going to be 2016 before they actually start to turn the soil. And also it concerns us that now it looks like it relies on federal funding, and I'm not sure of the commitment from that area.
It's coming quickly or not? Not
yes,
likely.
And well, it's not coming quickly. It's 2016 anyway, but at least it's now well known, and there is commitments to it. Colin Barnett recently on the 6WF was asked by the announcer, I can't remember his name, would he consider that an election promise, and should people not vote for him if the Perth-Darwin Highway isn't built? And he basically said yes. So I think he should be held to that, and the Perth-Darwin Highway needs to be built. And we can only assume that it will be.
Jeff, thanks very much for coming in and give us a bit of hints and highlights of the problems and the pleasures of the Swan Valley.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and please come back next week for more one-on-one shadowboxing.